Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. The Virginia Commonwealth University Health confirmed that a nurse employed by their health system is under investigation after posting a series of videos online calling for violence and sabotage against federal law enforcement officers. An estimated 200 agitators gathered outside Minnesota Governor Tim Walz's office inside of the Capitol building yesterday, shouting, "Ice out now and do your job." Wonder how the governor feels about these so-called peaceful protesters when they're just outside of his door. We're in the season again. Tax filing season officially opened yesterday and is expected to deliver $429 billion in refunds. That's up from $329 billion just last year, according to the Treasury Department. All because of President Trump's one big, beautiful bill. We have all the details. And 4th District Congressman William Timmons joins us with an update from Capitol Hill on where they stand on the potential government shutdown being pushed by the Democrats. All that. It's a busy, busy day. Let's get started.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
So here we are, one of those stories that you just can't make up. The Virginia Commonwealth University Health has confirmed that a nurse employed by them is under investigation and under suspension after posting a series of videos online calling for violence and suggesting ways to sabotage federal law enforcement officers. Here's what we know. What we see in these videos are actual tactics encouraging people to harm ICE agents. According to VCU Health, the individual, now on administrative leave, posted multiple TikTok videos that were later deleted, but had already been widely shared before that happened. In those videos, the nurse suggested things like using syringes as scare tactics against law enforcement, weaponizing poison ivy by spraying it on people through water guns, and even spiking the drinks of ICE agents with laxatives to incapacitate them. Now, let's be very clear here. That's not activism. It's not resistance. It's not protected protest. This is criminal behavior being openly encouraged by a medical professional. Here's an example.
All right, the single ladies where these ICE guys are going have a chance to do something, not without risk, but could help the cause for sure. Get on Tinder, get on Hinge, find these guys. They're around. They're an ICE agent, bring some X-Lax and put it in their drinks. Get them sick. Nobody's gonna die. Just enough to incapacitate them, get them off the street for the next day. Highly easily deniable. You could get sick too. Won't eat there again. I'm just saying, let's get them where they eat. Somebody's not going to be supporting these guys. Where's the hotel where they eat? Who makes that breakfast? Let's find them. Let's make their lives miserable. I know we're already trying to keep them awake all night. That's good. Anything you can do to make the living conditions bad. Talk to the people who work at the places where they are. Come up with some ideas. Dead fish. Somewhere in the room hidden. Just stay toxic.
Now think about that. Think about that part for just a second. This wasn't some anonymous keyboard warrior living in a basement in their parents' home. This was a licensed nurse wearing scrubs in some of these videos, speaking from a position of trust, someone who is trained to care for people, to protect life, to do no harm. And instead, she's telling followers how to poison people, how to use medical tools as intimidation weapons, and how to sabotage law enforcement operations. That should stop every reasonable person cold. Now, VCU Health responded very quickly, appropriately. They said the content was highly inappropriate, that it does not reflect their values, and that VCU Police are actively assisting in the investigation. The nurse has been placed on administrative leave and is not allowed anywhere near patients while this is reviewed. Good. That's we don't need her anywhere near anyone right now. Because look, if you're willing to talk like this online, people have every right to ask whether you can be trusted in a hospital setting, right? Now, let's zoom out for a moment. This comes amid weeks of escalating rhetoric, the protests that we've seen across the country, primarily in Minneapolis, and just outright chaos surrounding immigration enforcement, particularly ICE operations. Once again, what starts as political disagreement is being pushed towards dehumanization and violence. We've seen it before. By any means necessary, do what needs to be done, make their lives miserable. Those phrases are never harmless. They're language that lowers the moral barrier to violence. It is some ways justifies violence. Now, she wasn't finished. She had other suggestions in another video. She introduced this as today's resistance tips. She suggested poison ivy, poison oak, put it in a water gun and shoot it at them, she said. Then she suggested to her fellow medical providers to get some syringes, scare them.
Okay, for today's resistance tip, I vote, anybody got any poison ivy, poison oak in their yard? Get some of that up with gloves, obviously. Get it in some water, like a gallon of water. Get the poison ivy oak water, and I'm gonna put it into a water gun. Aim for faces, hands. Get good and wet. That might be a good, like if you're gonna do this, you're gonna be miserable and itch. The bologna on the cars that they're throwing there is a nice touch of hair, takes paint off. Sorry, I just got out of the shower and I look like a raccoon, but I thought of something good. I think it's something weird spot. Sabotage tactic, or at least scare tactic. All the medical providers, grab some syringes with needles on the end. Have them full of saline or succinylcholine, whatever. That will probably be a deterrent. Be safe.
And here's where we need to say something that apparently has become controversial in modern America. We have to respect law enforcement. That doesn't mean blind obedience. It doesn't mean oversight. Doesn't mean mistakes shouldn't be investigated. But it does mean we don't normalize calls to drug officers, to poison officers, to attack them physically, especially not from people in trusted professions. ICE agents are enforcing federal law passed by the U.S. Congress. You can disagree with the law. You can work to change it. You can vote. What you can't do is encourage criminal behavior and pretend it's activism, it's peaceful protest. There's also another uncomfortable truth here. When rhetoric like this is tolerated or even quietly applauded by the left, like it often is, it puts everybody at risk. You, me, law enforcement officers, protesters, bystanders, medical professionals, patients. Once you cross the line from protest to sabotage, you don't get to control where it stops. And finally, let's talk about accountability. This investigation shouldn't just be internal. Licensing boards should take a look at this. Law enforcement should look at it. Employers should look at it. Because if someone posted videos encouraging violence against any other group, we wouldn't be debating this. Words matter, intent matters, professional responsibility matters. This is exactly why we need to slow down, get the facts, stop condemning law enforcement reflexively while excusing dangerous behavior on the other side. You can support civil liberties, public safety. You can demand accountability, reject violence. You can care about immigration reform and respect the rule of law all at the same time. Those things are not opposites. They are the foundation of a functioning society. And if we can't even agree that medical professionals shouldn't be encouraging attacks on law enforcement, then we got a much bigger problem than immigration policy. That's not left versus right. That's very simple. That's right versus wrong. It's not your fault that losing weight is getting harder and harder. You're eating better, you're moving more, but your body isn't responding the way it used to. That's not willpower, that's metabolism. And believe me, I've learned so much about the metabolism from the folks at PhD Weight Loss, and it's made a huge difference in my life. Joey Hudson here. For many people, years of dieting quietly slows the metabolic system down, so the harder you try, the less progress you see. At PhD Weight Loss, they help people identify what's actually blocking fat loss, and they fix the root cause, not just count calories. If you want to understand why your body isn't cooperating, call PhD Weight Loss now and mention Fix My Weight Loss to unlock the New Year's special. It's free, it's personalized, and it could explain everything. Call 864-644-1900 and say Fix My Weight Loss. That's 864-644-1900 and say Fix My Weight Loss to get started today. You can also find them online at myphdweightloss.com. That's myphdweightloss.com. Start the new year off right and fix your weight loss. All right, let's take a break from the chaos in Minneapolis and around the country for some good news. Americans can expect an average $1,000 boost in their tax refund this year. Here's the story. This, of course, all thanks to President Trump's signature second-term legislation, big, beautiful bill. The White House is projecting an additional $100 billion to be returned to filers during this 2026 tax season. Filing season, officially opened yesterday, is expected to deliver $429 billion in refunds. Compare that to last year, $329 billion. That's where you get the extra $100 billion. With average refunds rising by about $1,000 per filer, the typical amount payout is projected to exceed over $4,000. Now, the White House said in a statement, millions of Americans are poised to receive significantly larger tax refunds thanks to President Donald J. Trump's landmark Working Families Tax Cuts Act, and every Democrat in Congress opposed it. He wanted to be sure we get that out there. Democrats did not support this, so they can't take any of the credit. Went on to say the historic legislation is delivering the biggest tax refund season in history. Last year, more than 3/5 of U.S. households received refunds, averaging $3,167, according to data cited by the Wall Street Journal when they were writing about this story. The refund surge reflects deliberate tax changes in the One Big Beautiful Bill. This is, of course, the sweeping GOP tax overhaul signed into law last year by President Trump. Republicans made the tax cut retroactive to the 2025 tax year, which is significant because that doesn't mean we have to wait a year for it to go into effect. That means right now, as you start filing your income tax returns, you're going to get credit for that. Not all filers will receive refunds now. You got to understand that. About 60% do, though. But those who do are seeing sharply higher payouts. Now, the reason some aren't going to benefit from this, it just depends on your tax bracket. And it's primarily the higher wealth, higher income taxpayers who will not benefit from it because they're already making a lot of money. I'm okay with that. The surge reflects the combined impact of multiple provisions in the law. The increase in state and local tax deductions cap, which is at $40,000, that accounts to about 1/4 of the individual tax cuts, according to the Tax Foundation. The largest contributor to the tax cuts driving higher refunds is a new overtime deduction, which represents, according to the White House, $38.7 billion, or 30% of it. This is $129 billion in individual tax relief in 2025. Other major drivers include the expanded standard deduction, the senior bonus deduction, the higher child tax credit, and deductions for tips and auto loan interest. These will all continue in the coming years. The refund surge is landing on the IRS that is significantly smaller than it was a year ago, raising questions about whether the agency can process returns and deliver refunds smoothly. Now, that is yet to be seen. We'll see on that. The IRS began last year with more than 100,000 employees. Is now estimated 25% smaller following retirements and some layoffs. Now, many cuts came from enforcement roles. The biggest pressure points are in call centers, paper correspondence, as many taxpayers, particularly older filers, still rely on phone assistance. That's going to be improved. That's going to be they're going to pay special attention to that. The IRS, operating under new leadership, says it expects to process about 164 million returns this year, roughly in line with last year. Insists systems are ready. Critics warn that fewer workers handling more money leaves little margin for error. David Perez, CEO of Tax Maverick AI, said the scale and timing of this year's refund surge are highly unusual compared with past tax cuts. He told the New York Post, "This is not how tax relief is usually delivered. Typically, when the government cuts taxes, withholding tables are updated so people see a little more money in every paycheck. That didn't happen in 2025. We knew that, though. The president has said that all along. Members of Congress have said that because they weren't updated, people kept paying the same payroll taxes, but knowing that the tax rate was retroactive and they're going to get that money back. That's going to be part of this the bigger refunds that we'll see. Now, Mr. Perez said that since this was the one big beautiful bill was retroactive and withholding stayed flat, taxpayers were effectively forced to save that money. He's still critical of it, but hey, look, you get it. Some people probably would have already spent it. Some would make the argument, well, it was mine to spend. I don't know. You tell me. I'd love to get your feedback. Should the tax tables have been changed last year? Would you rather have gotten some of this during the over the last eight months or so? Or are you happy that you're going to get a bigger, fatter check come return time? Text me, email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a quick message on the MyPillow message line. Always use promo code Joey when you go to MyPillow.com. And look, by the way, let me remind you, Michael and Dale, the MyPillow employees, they want to thank you for your support this past year. They want to make 2026 the best year ever. So to thank you, they're giving you free shipping on your entire order and wholesale pricing. For example, the classic MyPillow is regularly $49.98. When you use promo code Joey, you're going to get them for $17.98. Turn any mattress into the best mattress ever, made here in the USA. The MyPillow mattress topper. Save $100 or more. Get a set of MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets for as low as $29.98. Or my favorite, the 6-pack towel set for $39.98 when you use promo code Joey. Call 800-893-4059, 800-893-4059, or go to MyPillow.com. Use promo code Joey. And again, leave me a message. Let me know, would you have preferred to have gotten this over the past 8 months, or are you going to be happy to see it in one check? Leave me a quick message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Now, one more thing you need to keep in mind as far as whether you got it over the past months or you get it in one lump sum. Some of the tax authorities, some of the economic advisors say that this is going to be better for our economy, that lump sum refunds tend to have a much larger economic impact than the incremental increases in take-home pay. Again, you tell me. Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. A Border Patrol agent shot and critically wounded a man in Arizona about 30 miles from the U.S.-Mexico border during a checkpoint exercise. This was yesterday. The shooting comes, of course, after border agents who have been deployed along with ICE in the Minneapolis area shot and killed ICU nurse Alex Preddy last week, Renee Good a few weeks back. According to the story, the gunfire erupted around 7:30 a.m. yesterday on a road about 5 miles north of the U.S. Border Patrol's checkpoint in Amado, which is south of Tucson on the road to the border crossing at Nogales. The Arizona Daily Star is reporting. The wounded suspect is reportedly in custody at a level 1 trauma hospital following the shooting. The Santa Rita Fire District said patient care was transferred to a local medical helicopter for rapid transport to a regional trauma center. The FBI said it's investigating an alleged assault on a federal officer. The use of force probe will be led by the Pima County Sheriff's Department at the request of the feds. We're expected more details on this today in another news conference. Dozens of agitators packed the Minnesota Capitol yesterday, their chants echoing through the halls as tension over this federal immigration enforcement boiled into a standoff literally just feet outside of Governor Tim Walz's office. Now, as you heard there at the end, they're chanting, "Do your job, do your job." I assume they're talking to Governor Tim Walz since they were in the Capitol, outside the governor's office. Yesterday afternoon, we're told 200-plus agitators gathered outside of Walz's office, again, inside of the Capitol building. As you heard, "ICE out now, do your job." Those were the chants. Before the demonstration, organizers said they plan to slowly march toward the governor's doors, a move they said was peaceful. Agitators also screamed slogans like, "Whose house is this?" And, of course, they always answered, "Our house." What do we want? Charges. When do we want it? Now. And no one is illegal. Power to the people. So I guess that they can waltz into Tim Walz's office. See the play on words there? I guess they think they can show up, make these demands, and that our immigration system will just go away. They can declare that there's no one here illegally. What a bunch of idiots. I get when you disagree with immigration, but do you really think that showing up outside of your blue state governor's office yelling that, no one is illegal, power to the people, that's going to make a change? Now, some held signs reading "Justice for Good," referencing Renee Good, had a photo of Renee Good, who, of course, was killed by a officer last month. Others held signs demanding justice for Alex Peretti, who was also shot just this past week. On Monday, President Trump said he and Governor Walz spoke by phone as we've seen these tensions continue to escalate following Mr. Peretti's death. President Trump called the call very good, said the two leaders were on a similar wavelength, adding that he would have White House border czar Tom Homan follow up directly with Walz. Well, evidently, Mr. Homan is in town. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey said that he had a, quote, productive conversation with Mr. Homan yesterday. He said he urged the border czar to end Operation Metro Surge, arguing it creates fear and strains local police. Mayor Frey said the city will not enforce federal immigration laws and stressed public safety must be built on community trust. Now, don't you just love it? A mayor like this in Minneapolis just declaring we're not going to enforce federal immigration law in Tom Homan's face, basically saying, come and get us, lock us up. We're not going to enforce it. Doesn't he put his hand on the Bible and swear to uphold the Constitution, not only of Minneapolis or Minnesota, but the United States as well? Meanwhile, another one of these wacky judges yesterday temporarily blocked the Trump administration from deporting the 5-year-old Ecuadorian boy and his father who were taken into custody last week in Minnesota. Have you seen some of the memes and the back and forth and the video clips on this story? And you've seen the charges that, Trump's apprehending 5-year-olds now. They're taking 5-year-olds from their family. Well, there's more to the story than that. Adrian Arias and his son, Liam Ramos, were taken into custody by federal immigration authorities and are being held at the Dilley Immigration Processing Center in Texas, according to federal agencies. This temporary block, issued by U.S. District Judge Fred Beery, stays in place while their case is being litigated. Now, Mr. Arias and little Ramos can't be transferred from the judicial district where they're being held according to the order. In other words, they got to stay right there. Federal authorities, here's the story, were trying to take the father into custody in Minneapolis last week when he ran. He left. He fled the scene. He left his 5-year-old son at the scene with these federal law enforcement officers. The 5-year-old was arriving home from preschool, according to the Department of Homeland Security. Now, ICE Executive Assistant Director of Enforcement and Removal Operations, Marcos Charles, explained in a news conference what really happened.
The media and political activists have tried to deceive the American public about ICE and our operations. Yet again, they have failed, but the truth matters, and I'm here to tell you the truth about what we do. This week, ICRO conducted targeted enforcement operation to arrest Adrian Alexander Conejo Arias, an illegal alien who was released back into the interior of the United States by the previous administration. When officers approached Conejo Arias, he and his child were in a vehicle. Arias fled from law enforcement on foot, abandoning his child in the middle of winter in a vehicle. One of our officers stayed behind with that child while other officers apprehended his father. After conducting the arrest, my officers stayed with the child. They cared for him, took him to get something to eat from a drive-through restaurant, and spent hours ensuring he was taken care of. Again, my officers did that, not his father. My officers did everything they could to reunite him with his family. Tragically, when we approached the door of his residence, the people inside refused to take him in and open the door. Let me say it again. They saw the young boy and they refused to open the door and take him back. This is the human side of the job that my officers do. They are family men and women. They have children of their own. They sacrifice everything for their families. I know for a fact that they were heartbroken to see the child's own family leave him behind. Fortunately, Conejo Arias eventually requested that his child stay with him. We do everything in our power not to separate families. So they took him back together to Minneapolis, here to the city, to the ICE facility for processing, and now they are being well cared for at a family residential center, pending their immigration proceedings. This is the real face of ICE, ERO, Border Patrol, and our allied partners. The media doesn't know our officers, we do. My officers do the right thing no matter how difficult or how long it takes throughout the day. Let me debunk a couple more lies. Conejo Arias was not walking to school with his child, and we did not target the child. Arias fled from law enforcement officers and left his child behind. Again, middle of winter, in a car.
Now, that's the truth. That's the story. Did you hear that? Some immigration and customs officers remained at the scene with the young boy while others chased down his father, who was apprehended soon after. Now, Democrats have claimed that little Ramos was kidnapped, that he was used as bait to catch his father. However, the ICE officers made multiple attempts to have little 5-year-old Ramos's mother, who was inside of the home, take custody of her son. She refused, according to DHS. The mother knew that her 5-year-old son was out there with these ICE officers, strangers, had to be scared to death, and she would not open the door and take custody. Now, we're told the father entered the U.S. illegally in December 2024. He was released into the U.S. by none other than Joe Biden. The family's attorney said he had a pending asylum claim allowing him to stay in the country. Media is told by the agency that this man had the opportunity to utilize a process known as VR, voluntary return, to leave the U.S. with no immigration consequences, but he declined. And this is where he is now. And I hate it for him, and I'm sorry for that little 5-year-old, but some of the stories we've been hearing are just not true. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. Joining me on the guest line from the 4th Congressional District in South Carolina, William Timmons. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Joey, good morning. I'm trying to stay warm. Hope you're doing the same.
Well, it has been that winter storm. Let's hope maybe the worst is over and this is it for this year, and we can all move on. Look, lots going on. This is one of those times, Congressman, that I'm trying to think, okay, we're going to have just a few minutes together. Where do we start? Because there's so many things that we could cover. Let's start with the chaos in Minnesota. Yesterday, President Trump announced a change in the guard, if you will, in Minneapolis, with Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino being replaced with Border Czar Tom Holman. What should we take from this change of command?
Well, first, Tom Holman is the best we got. And I think that obviously the situation has been difficult to get a hold of, and sending the best we got is logical. But I think it's important to realize that all this chaos is not you have to ask what's going on, because right now ICE is currently removing 1.3 to 1.4 million people that are in this country illegally, that have received all of their due process and that have been convicted of violent felonies. So these are rapists, murderers, sex traffickers, drug traffickers. I mean, these are like the worst of the worst. And so we're not just deporting random people, and they're not just like picking people out of the crowd. They know who they're going to get. And so that's number one. Number two, this is happening all over the country. Yeah. And the only place that people are protesting in this manner and to this degree is in Minnesota, particularly around Minneapolis. So, I mean, I think that there's more going on here. I think the fact that we just uncovered $10 billion in fraud has something to do with it. And I think that a lot of these people are paid agitators that are designed to disrupt the process. And I think there's just a lot more to this story. So, I mean, I would just say stay tuned.
Yeah. I mean, do you think there's a chance, obviously what the mob wants is for President Trump to pull federal agents out. And it appears that's what Governor Walz and Mayor Fry want too. Is there any chance that the president could potentially give in and pull all the federal officers out?
Absolutely zero. 77 million Americans voted for the rule of law to matter. They voted to close the borders. They voted to make us safe. And so if a mob says, no, you can't enforce the law, that's not how this works. If law enforcement gives in to the mob mentality, then we no longer have the rule of law. Then we no longer have a society that is structured on laws. So no, a bunch of people screaming and yelling and trying to disrupt legal, valid law enforcement operations will not succeed. They cannot succeed. And I mean, look, National Guard is going to do their role. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is going to do their role. I think the biggest thing here is local law enforcement needs to get off their butts. Yep. I mean, it's unacceptable that people feel like they can treat federal law enforcement this way. And it comes from the top. It comes from the governor. It comes from the mayors. And their rhetoric is what is causing this. And whether it's the Clintons or the Obamas saying fight, disrupt, I mean, that is literally facilitating the exact outcome that everyone wants to avoid. Yeah. Nobody wants to have federal law enforcement interact with civilians and have to use force or even use lethal force to try to effectuate their arrest. So stay out of their way, let them do their job. File a lawsuit if you want to. But jumping in front of an ICE agent that's arresting a rapist or a murderer is not a great plan.
Yep. Congressman William Timmons is my guest today. Your colleague, Representative Omar, appears she found some money pretty quickly. If you look at the reports, will there be a thorough investigation of how she and her husband's about their financial dealings? I mean, this really it looks bad on the surface. I don't know how the value of a company can go from a few thousand to 25 million overnight. And that looks like what happened.
Joey, I'm doing Congress all wrong. My net worth has steadily gone down. I've had to sell 5 different businesses to make my finances work. So I need to talk to these people and figure out what they're doing.
You and me both.
No, I'm joking. Listen, there's clearly a lot of smoke here. And honestly, it seems like all of this stuff is tied together. And the question is how, and I'm confident that the House Ethics Committee and that the Department of Justice are going to uncover exactly what's going on. Because, when you get elected to Congress 7 years ago and your net worth is almost zero and you make $174,000 a year and you live in 2 places and, fast forward 7 years and you're worth $30 million, that math just doesn't work. So we're going to get to the bottom of it. And we also have outside earned income bans. So it's illegal for me. It's not just unethical. It's illegal for me to get a job and to have earned income over, I think it's $27,000 a year. So I can get a second job. I'm only a bartender, or if I want to go wait tables, I can do something like that. But there's a maximum amount of money you can get outside. So the math just doesn't work. It's as simple as that. And when you have $10 billion in fraud to all these social safety nets, and she's the champion for these social safety nets, and we already have evidence that she has money that has been given to her campaign because there's disclosure there. So I have a feeling that you're going to find out that maybe her husband was getting paid $250,000 a year or $500,000 a year. This is her actual husband, not her brother husband. So
yes,
we got to clarify that.
Yes.
But, again, we're going to get to the bottom of this stuff because the American people want answers, and that's exactly what we're going to give them.
Yep. One final thing for you, Congressman. I read yesterday that the Senate is trying to find votes to pass the funding package to keep the government open. Well, what's the status of that, and are we looking at a potential shutdown again?
So the Senate's supposed to vote today or tomorrow, probably tomorrow because of the snow, on the House-passed appropriations bills. The way that those were packaged together was that it's an all-or-nothing thing. And if they change it, the House has to come back. And trying to get the House back right now is I don't know if it's even possible. Yeah. We're not supposed to come back until next Monday, next Tuesday. So that would facilitate a government shutdown. So the Senate either needs to take exactly what we gave them, which passed with an overwhelming bipartisan majority. But obviously the one big one that they're threatening right now is the DHS funding. Yeah. But they can't strip out DHS funding without shutting the government down. So they are stuck between a rock and a hard place. It would be great if they would just tell people to not disrupt and forcefully protest in Minnesota, but that would be too difficult for them to do. So they're going to come back and threaten to shut the government down and see what happens. But listen, Democrats for years and years have always said government shutdown is terrible. Government shutdown is terrible. You can't do that. That's bad. You shouldn't use shutting down the government to achieve a policy position. And here they are. They just did it for 50 days, and they're talking about doing it for who knows how long more. We're not going to give in because that's just not how you run a country. But we'll see what games they want to play.
Yep. Congressman William Timmons, always a pleasure. Be safe, and I look forward to talking with you again soon.
Thank you, my friend. Be well.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com. And I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.